Phil, are we good to get started? Perfect. Okay. This is the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky Resolution Committee meeting for 2022. On the committee serving this year, we have Kathy Jackson, Jacob Hack, and Angela Henderson. And the committee has two resolutions today. Kathy has graciously volunteered to read those to us, so we will read the first one, which is in regard to Office of Voc Rehab, and then we will allow opportunities for discussion for the draftee Jane Seif, and then also Jacob Hack. Kathy, if you'd like to read the first resolution.
Resolution 2022-01 regarding the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation's lack of support for blind students in Kentucky. Whereas blind students in Kentucky who are consumers of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation have been denied services contracted to them through their individual plan as a result of not being able to contact their counselor in a timely fashion, if at all. And whereas many of these blind students in Kentucky have had to use personal funds for such materials as textbooks, as no vouchers or other methods of reimbursement has been forthcoming from the agency. And whereas many of these blind students in Kentucky have had to use personal funds or other resources to ensure their tuition was paid so as to incur no disruption in their education. And whereas in many cases, the reason these students cannot reach or receive services from their Office of Vocational Rehabilitation counselor is that this person has left the agency, yet the student has not been contacted with this information, nor with the name and information of an appropriate contact to replace the counselor in order to obtain tuition information or assistance with equipment, materials, or book vouchers. And whereas the pandemic has created an even more stressful and inaccessible environment for blind students, and the support of agencies such as the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation is more necessary than ever before. Now therefore be it resolved by the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky in convention assembled this 29th day of October 2022 in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, that this organization demand the agency put measures in place to alert consumers if their counselor has left, and that they provide an alternative contact to resolve issues that may arise before a new counselor can be hired and in place. And be it further resolved that this organization demand that the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation honor their commitment to blind students in Kentucky with regard to support both in financial and practical matters as laid out in the consumer's plan. And be it further resolved that this organization will actively seek to meet with representatives of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation in a public forum sometime in the coming year to address our concerns.
Thank you, Kathy. I'll go ahead and open this up for Jane if you'd like to speak first in favor of the resolution.
Hello, I'm actually the author of the resolution. In the past, I guess, couple of years, so I went back to school about 2 years ago to receive my master's degree. My job pays for my tuition. The only thing that OVR consented to assist with was technology for the initial outset and books. In at least one of the semesters, maybe two, I actually ended up buying my own books because I could not get a hold of my counselor. It turned out my counselor wasn't my counselor anymore. So nobody was answering my emails. She had moved on to a different position. The same thing happened to Riley, and she almost didn't get her tuition paid. Again, trying to contact the counselor no longer employed by the agency, no information given, no alternative given. And the same thing happened to Taryn, and I believe it was when she was at LCB. So all of those things happening in one household leads me to believe there is a problem, and thus the resolution.
Thank you, Jane. Jacob, you'd like to speak?
He's behind below. You could, I could pass the mic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my experience with this has been pretty similar. Going through college, actually the past 4 years, I think, about every year I'll have one, sometimes two different counselors. And it's always, I'm having to look up, and try to figure out who I'm supposed to talk to every year. And it's really difficult. And several of my friends have gone for a whole year not even knowing who they're supposed to talk to, and specifically technology, having to figure the technology out, and most of the time it's just like, well, we'll just have to, I guess, pay for it ourselves because there's no really support there forthcoming to us to help us. So that's been my experience.
Thank you, Jacob. Discussions from the committee?
Personally think it's a well-written resolution and deserves our attention.
I recommend, I support it.
Yeah, I recommend do pass.
All right.
Recommend you pass.
All right, so the committee has recommended do pass. So we'll move to resolution number 2. In regard to recognition of Congressman John Yarmouth. Kathy,
Okay. Resolution 2022-02 in recognition of service to the blind of Kentucky. Whereas Congressman John Yarmouth has served the citizens of the U.S. 3rd Congressional District, which encompasses the city of Louisville and other surrounding incorporated cities in Kentucky since 2007. And whereas many of his constituents are blind and visually impaired. And whereas the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky participates actively in the annual Washington seminar sponsored by the National Federation of the Blind. And whereas the purpose of the Washington seminar is to present to the Congress the legislative issues most relevant to the blind of the nation. And whereas Congressman Yarmouth has always availed himself to the Kentucky delegation, engaging in productive conversations, supporting proposed legislation and co-sponsoring House bills. Now therefore be it resolved by the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky and convention assembled this 29th day of October 2022 in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, that the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky recognize Congressman John A. Yarmouth for his 15 years of dedicated service to the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky so that we, the blind, can live the lives we want. Okay,
thank you, Kathy. If you would go ahead, you wanted to speak on
it
this
was,
one.
I think it was actually suggested by Jane that we write this resolution, and I was asked if I would write it, and that's, he truly has been one of our staunch supporters. I don't think there's ever been a year that he hasn't met with us. If there's been a year or two, it's so far back, I don't even remember. And it's going to be so sad that, he's just down to his last couple of months in Congress, as I've got a feeling we're going to be all Republican, and for whatever reason, our Republican congressman in Kentucky, and I guess I shouldn't make this political, but for whatever reason, they just don't seem to listen to us like we would hope. And John Yarmouth has always been that bright spot when we go to Washington. So I recommend do pass.
I recommend you pass.
Jacob, second. I recommend you pass.
Okay, thank you. The committee recommends do pass for the second resolution. So unless I'm missing something, this is the first time I've done this in person, so I apologize if I did. We will present these tomorrow during the convention on the floor,
At which time they.
at
can
which
vote.
time everyone will vote. Thank you, everyone.
That's it.